Hey guys, David from the Modern Martial Artist here. I'm bringing you 3 fights today, as in the description from the last UFC event, which was pretty damn amazing. Even if you're into boxing only, I'd still listen because there were some great fights, great examples here. I've left the links, the timestamps below in the description in the comments if you're only interested in hearing about one fight or whatever. As always, this video is brought to you by me, by my books if you're interested in footwork or power below. And without further ado, let's get started with the first fight. Alright, I want to talk briefly about Munoz versus Johns because it was such an incredible fight. Not only was it exciting and I didn't know what was going to happen the entirety of the way through, but it also showed some really interesting displays of skills and techniques. So the first thing I want to talk about is the winner of the fight, Munoz, because he had some really beautiful boxing and some nice kicks. What really got me interested in him as a fighter when this is the first time I've seen him fight, to my knowledge. What really got me interested was Johns threw a left-right combination, or I think it was a left-right-left, something like that. It was something to where Munoz needed to block 3 times. So he did 3 beautifully executed elbow blocks. He has what you call a live guard. If someone just puts their hands to their head and then crouches down low, that's a dead guard. That's a static guard. And that will get you into trouble 95% of the time. And those are the guys who just shell up and just wait to throw something after the guy's done with their combination. It's a really terrible idea. But Munoz has such a beautiful, active live guard. He just took 3 or 4 shots, just boom, 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 body, body, head, head, and then immediately threw a counter off of it. A left-right counter. And I'm like, okay. And he kind of rocked Johns in the first round right away with that shit. And I'm like, that's pretty good. And Johns, to his credit, when he gets hit, he throws something right back. So, and he was blocking some nice shots too. His guard was way more static than Munoz. But he could still hit heavy and he could still hit hard and he could still counter. So I knew right away, I'm like, okay, this fight could be really good. I don't know how long it's going to go, but the fight's probably going to be really good. And then Munoz started with these really nice leg kicks. And Johns didn't, they were either too fast for Johns or he just couldn't seem to check them, or he didn't care about checking them. Which is, not a great idea, really. So, fight's going on. Munoz starts sitting on his front leg, and I'm like, how's he going to deal with leg kicks? And it turned out he didn't, because Johns didn't throw any. And then he starts kind of wading in, like very, very boxing style, and starts pinning his head to Johns' chest. I immediately thought, okay, this guy has some really nice boxing and some decent leg kicks. But how the hell is he going to deal with the knees, what he did is, I only saw Johns try to knee him twice, but he basically just acted like it was an angled body shot, like a half uppercut, half hook to the body, like a 45 degree one. He acted like it was one of those, and he just kind of leaned down, and he brought his elbow down hard on Johns' thigh, and then he parried once he made contact there. Which seemed like a great way to fuck up your elbow if you hit the knee, but he got away with it twice. So that's how he dealt with kind of wading in there. And then he was also very good at clinching and making sure that, that he didn't get a collar tie on him or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, so we actually have a fight here. It doesn't look like there's going to be a flash knockout because both guys can defend each other, can defend decently, except for Johns with that leg kick. And so the same exchange, it was weird. The same exchange repeated itself like 10 times. It was Johns throwing like a left-right, and then Munoz just going, elbow block, left hook, right hook, over and over again. And sometimes he'd get him with a couple of those hooks, but by the end, Johns was keeping his hands up off of his attack afterwards, and wasn't really getting hit too much. And I just, I was like annoying my wife, I think, because we watched it with a couple of friends in a bar, and I was just like, uppercut. I was yelling at Munoz, just uppercut, because Johns just had that same open up the middle guard the entire time. I was like, body shot, uppercuts, come on, man. And I think second round, Munoz started with a nice like flurry, some nice body shots, and then headshots off of it. I'm like, there you go. And he was kicking more to the body. and continued battering that leg. But it was Johns who landed a nice uppercut through the guard when they got into that same exact situation again. So I'm like, okay, there we go. Someone knows that actually exists, you know? During the second round, Munoz just really hammered away at Johns' leg to the point where Johns just was limping. He had to change stances, and he hit him one, and his leg kind of buckled. I'm like, again, and so then he throws it again, and Johns is getting like a little bit more. You know, he's backing off. It's getting harder to land that leg kick, and what Munoz chose to do is alternate it with head kicks. And there's a good lesson here about pairing strikes that start the same, to where at least halfway through the move, it could be one strike or the other. So Munoz chose to go with the leg kick, head kick for that. So in other words, when he threw his kick, Johns could block high to the head, or he moved away, probably you want to check, you know, to the leg. I would have paired it, if I were his coach, I would have been yelling out cross, because I would have paired the cross to get him to block high with the leg kick. And then started just feinting the two. Because that way, at least you get his hands high, you know, to where you could, like, you know, land a body shot off of it or go through the leg kick again. Or you get him in position trying to check the leg kick, and then he's right there for your cross, and you can move in with like a lead hook off of that or something. That was the second round, and then was it the second round? I think it was the second round that Johns like came back. Munoz, for whatever reason, got kind of tired. I think he took down Johns, and then Johns stood him back up to his credit off of that hurt leg already, and then pressed him against the cage. And then Johns came back, and they were both moving pretty slow, but Johns was landing and actually kind of rocked Munoz. I'm like, if he knocks him out, this is going to be crazy, especially after getting all those leg kicks. And it was just that it was that way through the whole rest of the second round. Third round, you know, Munoz got him with a really nice body kick and then a really nice head kick. I think it was a head kick first. And it was both off of the same thing. What it was is that Johns was trying to do this. It's like a Muay Thai move. It's usually used for a teep. And I think the problem was he was trying to defend Munoz's roundhouse kicks to the body, to the head, to the leg with a teep defense, which is if you throw the rear teep, you take your right hand. So if you're both in orthodox, the guy's throwing a right teep, his rear leg, you use your rear hand to parry so that you can move to the outside and push him off balance. And he got in trouble with that twice, trying to do that with a roundhouse kick rather than a teep. I don't know if he thought he was throwing a teep. You could do it with a roundhouse kick too. It's just I wouldn't advise it near as much unless you're at least mid to long range. But he got in trouble both times because that move pretty much necessitates that you flare your elbow and get your elbow far away from your body. So you could, you know, that opens up your body right away. So he tried to do that and got hit to the body. And he tried to do that again and got hit to the face. It also opens up your chin a good deal. You could defend your chin with the other hand, and you could take some lessons from boxing, and I guess you could protect the right side with your right shoulder if you really wanted to. But that kind of block leaves you really open. It's pretty dangerous. Even a lot of Muay Thai guys will use the lead hand to defend the opponent's rear teep too. Moving on, he got hit with those, but then I really felt like Munoz could have ended it easily if he just kept attacking John's leg and letting him get up, or having him try to get up until he couldn't. So I felt that he could have won the fight with that, and he had him rocked a couple times. He just kept trying to go for submission, like a highlight submission reel. What have you. It was a good... I felt like Munoz, with a little bit smarter plan, could have won it, but Johns just showed insane heart, and I'm now a fan of both these guys. I'm looking forward to both of them fighting again. That's all I've got to say about those fights, so let's move on to the next one. All right, let's take a look at Cejudo versus Mighty Mouse versus Demetrius Johnson. This was really unexpected, and there are three things that Cejudo did to neutralize Mighty Mouse. The first one is worked out, but it won't always work out, and that Cejudo ate a lot of leg kicks without checking for the specific purpose of being able to catch those kicks. And it worked out for him several times. He was able to catch a kick and then just hard right into Mighty Mouse's chin and knock him down. So that was number one, but it's not really an advisable strategy because I don't know how the hell he took that many kicks to the leg. And like Mighty Mouse doesn't really throw the ones with that are like mid shin. He usually hits in the arch of the foot or even the toes, the knuckles, more like a taekwondo or karate kick. And he'll even do it like lead leg, like a little Jeet Kune Do pendulum kick or savate, whatever you want to credit it as. So, you know, they're not the most terrible kicks in the world, but at the same time, those kinds of kicks still really hurt very, very badly. As long as they hit the nerve, they hit hard and they hit fast. And I don't know how he was able to withstand it to the extent that he did. But like I said, it worked out for him. Even though his leg got a little wonky, I don't know if he tripped on it or what. If I was like a conspiracy theorist, I'd be like, they put a numbing agent on it, man. That's why it couldn't move at the beginning. It was a numbing agent, and he absorbed all of Mighty Mouse's kicks. Look into it, bro. But you know, obviously that's not the case. I think he's a tough mofo, man. So that's the first thing he did. And it was a gamble, and it worked out for him. The next thing he did was he used lateral movement through stance switching to offset Mighty Mouse's ability to escape the cage, to escape to the middle of the ring with his back against the cage, and to set up new angles. So Mighty Mouse does the whole Willy Pep thing when he's circling, which is, you wouldn't think it makes a huge difference, but it really, really does. Whichever leg is behind you, whichever leg is your rear leg, so in southpaw, that's your right leg. Orthodox, your left leg's behind, reverse that. In southpaw, your left leg is behind you, and orthodox, your right leg is behind you. Whichever leg is behind you, it's way easier to circle and initiate lateral movement off of that. So you just stay sideways in that stance, and then if you want to L step or whatever the hell, you just switch. So Mighty Mouse does that all the time, and he also uses it to set up his leg kicks. So what Cejudo did is he was switching stances nearly instantaneously with Mighty Mouse a lot of the time. And that not only ruined the setup for his leg kicks, because it's not always to circle the cage. Sometimes he'll do the opposite just to put... If he sees an opening, if he sees his opponent passes him too far to the right, he'll switch stances and throw a left kick to the inside of the leg, that kind of stuff. And it works in all different directions. So, even though he wasn't able to avoid a lot of them, Cejudo was still able to neutralize a lot of those kicks, and more importantly, he was able to follow Mighty Mouse around the cage and trap him. And, okay, here's the other part of that, and also the most important thing. This wasn't just about trapping him, and limiting his movement. This was about mid-ring exchanges too. So you have to understand that what Mighty Mouse does is that he'll usually initiate with a kick or something, or some kind of feint, and then he'll come in and he'll control the guard as he switches angles. So he switches angles absolutely beautifully. He switches angles like Cruz or like TJ, like Willy Pep, like Miocic sometimes does, and he'll do that with guard control and guard manipulation to make sure he's not countered again. So he'll grab both his opponent's wrists when he comes in, so he'll feint across and then they'll cover up, and then he'll grab their wrists, or just he'll do a takedown off of that, get them like their guard up high, and then control one side of their guard and then go for like a single leg, and he'll D'Amato shift and like reverse D'Amato shift behind them, which is like moving all the way across. And if you don't know what that is, please watch my Mike Tyson videos, because that guy had insane footwork too. So he'll do what Tyson does, but he'll initiate guard control first. And Cejudo just wouldn't let him do that. And his response was not only to be better at grappling than him, right? Because even if you manage to not have your guard controlled and you're able to throw, Johnson is still switching angles, right? So that's not it. He did both at the same time. So Cejudo would, like Mighty Mouse would go in for like a collar tie, right? Cejudo would instead duck low switch angles, secure one arm around the waist and then one around the knee, switch angles while he's doing that, and Demetrius is trying to shift across the center line so that he's facing the other way. Cejudo instead just moved with him and evaded his guard manipulation and took hold of one of his legs and then took him down to the ground. And every time Mighty Mouse tried to do a takedown, instead of a guard manipulation into a strike and then exit out at an angle, anytime he tried to take down as well, Cejudo would do the same thing. He'd just avoid it and switch angles. So those are the three things, right? He was able to control the ring by switching stances. He was able to, and using lateral movement, switching in time with Mighty Mouse. He was able to catch a lot of his kicks by taking so many punishing kicks to the body and to the legs and risking that. I don't know how the hell he did it. Like I said before, badass mofo. And he was able to change angles, so beautiful footwork, the same time that he was out wrestling Johnson. And not only out wrestling like through clinching, but also every time, Mighty Mouse tried to go low or use his head to dig into his chest or press against him to knock him down, because Mighty Mouse uses his head a lot. He's like a wrestler through and through, in that regard. It's beautiful to watch, but this time Cejudo neutralized it by framing off of his chin and just not letting him bury his head in, dig his head in, put it to his hip or his chest, or to knock his head to the side or whatever what have you. He controlled his head, the entire way through. So it's what Dorman always says, right? I think he says hooks. It's either hooks or hands. He said both, but he says head, hips, hooks. Control those, use those, and that's what Mighty Mouse always does. And this time he just wasn't able to do it because Cejudo was better than him at it. So that being said, it was still a really close fight, and I felt like with a couple adjustments, I feel like Johnson just got so used to his technique working that he wasn't able to go back to anything else. He wasn't able to even enter without a guard manipulation a lot of the time. He's just so used to it. So, and he wasn't setting up any strikes off of his kicks, really. It was all just guard manipulations off the kicks. If he even bothered to come in the kicks at all, he's so used to his opponent's legs getting worn out to the point, like he's so strategic about this. He goes from the outside, right? Outside range or long range, whatever you want to call it, to mid-range / punching, striking, guard manipulation range, to close range, to wrestling, to takedown. Every single time. It's methodical, it's meticulous. If you watch his fights, it almost always happens. He'll attempt a takedown, can't do it, okay, back to long range. Can't get inside, okay, back to long range. Now I could get inside, okay, time to try the takedown again. Can't do that, okay, drive him to the cage. Now take him down. It's something I feel like he got too used to working all the time, and his coach was giving him great advice. I don't know his coach's name, but they were in his corner a lot. They were showing what was happening in his corner, and his coach had really good advice the entire time. But Cejudo was just more prepared. So I'm hoping to see a rematch. I think obviously Mighty Mouse should have definitely fought TJ instead. It would have been, even if he didn't get the money he wanted, would have gotten more than this fight, and it would have been two champions against each other. But if that had happened, we might not have gotten, TJ versus Cody, which I'll talk about right now. All right, let's talk about TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. Another amazing fight. Pretty much almost a near repeat of the last one, except of course it ended a little quicker in the first round. And the conclusion it was basically the same finish, though, except the stances were switched, and that's it. So, first of all, these guys are so close to each other in so many ways. Like, it's speed-wise, I think Garbrandt's a little faster, but they're both really fast. Their reaction time is off the charts. They could both strike right after they get hit, or react immediately after taking a hit. Their footwork incredible. Both just insanely close, insanely talented fighters. And it started off with I think Cody was the first one to land. He landed like a tight hook, and then TJ landed a really hard roundhouse to the body. Obviously, Cody's in great condition and just kind of took it. And then Cody landed a pretty nice teep. Then there was a dual exchange, and they both hit each other with a hook at the same time. And I think TJ was a little bit more off balance, or he got hit harder or rocked more because he actually had to take several steps back. He lost his balance when that happened. But Cody got hit hard too. It was both at the same time pretty much. So then TJ tried to come in with a double leg without much of a setup. I think he might have feinted a jab, and Cody did the same thing he did to Cruz when he tried to do that. Instead of throwing a knee, he just he threw like a front snap kick with the shin, and then TJ took that right to the face, and there was like a loud like snap, and I'm like, ooh, like that could have been a knockout right there. But then TJ leans back to avoid another blow and teeps him like right off of getting kicked in the face. And I'm like, oh man, this fight is not going to last the round. Like that's when I knew. I'm like, somebody's getting knocked the hell out. I don't know who it is, but someone's getting knocked out. So then TJ landed a teep, but then Cody just charged right through it. I'm not sure if he hit TJ with a hook or not, but he knocked him down. But it was more because TJ was more off balance, and I think Cody probably thought that he had him rocked or shook pretty bad, or he just lost his temper, let his emotions take control. For whatever reason, first he tried to get back control, and then as TJ stood up, he kept hooking him in the head from the side, and they were just like arm punches, and so TJ wasn't really hurt too bad. And TJ eventually just got into kind of a Philly shell, like the way you're supposed to, like one shoulder is protecting your chin. You're not just leaving one arm dangling. And the elbows protruded a little bit to protect your sides, and you're moving sideways. And then he put his hand up and he started backing away. And he backed away. I think they were both in orthodox. And then TJ started backing away outside. And then as Cody followed him, TJ suddenly, violently changes direction deep inside because he's expecting what Garbrandt is really good at, which is Garbrandt is amazing at catching the opponent at a tighter angle, and he's amazing at staying put in the same place, which is kind of how he beat Cruz, really, which is he was able to intercept Cruz's wide angles, and then he was able to stay in the same place and turn shift. So as Cruz moved from the inside to the outside or vice versa, he would just plant his feet pretty much and then just move his body around and then catch him as he finished the rotation. Like I have a video on turn shifts with Hagler if you want to check it out. So, but the problem here is that TJ and I'm sure Ludwig by this point, TJ's coach, just know Cody so well. They know he's going to try to intercept him. And so TJ just got him moving towards him, moved really deep inside, stepped inside, ducked inside, and hit him with a hard hook, kind of an overhand, because he was ducked down so low. And then same sequence repeated again. And as good as Cody is at these really tight punches, kind of Floyd Patterson punches where he keeps his elbow in as tight as possible and just kind of wings it and lets his hand do the rotation more so than the elbow, and catches his opponent with the intersection with that super tight angle. As good as he is with that, he does lower his hand to do that punch every time. And that kind of punch, you really want your head on one of your opponent's shoulders, pressed close into them so that it's partially protected. And his were not at all. His head was not on either one of TJ's shoulders or close enough to throw those tight punches. And he wasn't moving in to intercept him. He was throwing that same tight punch out off of planting himself there. So then, same thing. They're both in the same spot. TJ hits him again with a harder, cleaner punch. And then TJ does the exact same thing, and it repeats itself again. TJ moves back and to the outside. And then Cody steps in again. But TJ knows he's going to do that and steps deep inside again and hits him with that same shot. That's what knocked him down. And after that, the fight was pretty much finished. Uh, and at first, Cody was doing much, much better. He was, as the commentators were saying, he was throwing more kicks, he was setting stuff up more. But the basic fundamentals of keeping one hand up high while you throw your shots really saved TJ for both of these fights. And then angles, of course. Whereas, like I said, Cody's really great at intercepting people coming in, which is why he's able to catch Dillashaw as he comes in, even as he adjusts angles. He plants himself there pretty much afterwards and doesn't tend to move a whole hell of a lot when he's throwing punches. He just expects the guy to stay there while he flurries. And TJ's took the same exact angle this time, pretty much, except instead of southpaw, it was orthodox this time. But it works the same way, both ways, guys. If you get enough of an inside angle, whether you're in southpaw or squared up or orthodox, and you're able to get outside of your opponent's rear hand, then it's gonna work regardless. Or inside of their lead hand, just that straight path right down the middle is gonna work, and it worked again this time. So great fight. I honestly wish it would have lasted longer because I was hoping for. I'm a huge TJ Dillashaw fan, but I was hoping for a rivalry. I was hoping him and Mighty Mouse would have a rivalry, and that didn't happen. But good for Cejudo. And then I was hoping him and Cody would have more of a rivalry. So hopefully someone else badass will come along to help define TJ, and have TJ help define him. So that's it for this podcast. Really great event. I'll have some boxing for you for the next podcast. I didn't feel like I felt this one deserved its own episode. So as always, if you really love footwork, check out my book, Footwork Wins Fights. It'll be available in paperback soon. It turns out you can't set up a pre-order for paperback. So I'm adding some adjustments, like putting in arrows and links to fights or just moments in fights where they happened, for reference, like throughout the book. I'm working on doing that before I release the paperback, and then if you've ordered the ebook, then you'll receive a brand new copy. You'll just get it emailed right to you from that. So check that out. Also, Power of the Pros, if you want to generate power. It's basically sports physics, but I've never seen a sports physics book about martial arts, or at least not a competent one. There was one I wasn't really impressed with, because that was like, I'd say 2 chapters of the book, and the remaining 5 chapters were about concussions and how that happens. Which is like, okay, that's interesting. That's not what the book promised. So this goes much more in depth than that book, and goes into, it's like a sports kind of science book, and it's based off a sports science book, but put in a martial arts context. You could get both of those right now for a pretty great deal if you order both at the same time of the ebook too. So that's on modernmartialartist.com. That's modernmartialartist.com. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I left the link below. That's it for today. And what else? Oh, Cruz breakdown is next. People have been asking me for Dominic Cruz breakdown forever, so I'm going to do a Dominic Cruz breakdown next. And then couple more short boxing breakdowns before I get to Duran Leonard 2. No mas. And then after that, there'll be a couple more in between that, but then I'll get into Ali Frazier 2. So all those videos are upcoming. That's it for today, and happy training.